Hi, I've been back in the UK now for 2 years. Just gone 2 years in May 2023. Stay tuned to hear about some of what's happened in those 2 years. Hi, I'm Steffi from across the pond and back. I'm an English girl who met and married an American man, went to the USA, lived there for 18 years, came back to be with my older mum after my husband sadly had a brain cancer diagnosis and passed away in 22. The first thing to say really is that when I started my YouTube channel in just January this year, I wanted to share mainly about my expat life, also about midlife and the issues to do with us over 50s, Gen Xers, so stay tuned. I have to say that when I got back, I noticed a lot of difference. I mean, 18 years, it's inevitable, I know, but really I wasn't quite ready for it. Wasn't quite ready, don't think. And just going to cross this little gravelly area here. Wasn't quite ready for what I actually experienced. So I made one of my very first videos. It's called Return to England After 18 Years. It is one of my first, so I'm not even looking at the camera that well, but you might like to watch that. It's still interesting for the history books. But just to recap on that a little bit, I was talking about the differences I'd noticed, and particularly in people's attitudes. Well, I came back to England after 18 years, and that's the subject of our video today. Things like that. So I'm not going to recap all of in that video, but suffice it to say that I did find quite a bit of difference. So I'm going to start with a positive. Positives include walking in this beautiful green temperate weather area, countryside of England. It's very unique, and I probably mentioned that before, but it's just so amazing just to walk along here. I mean, sure, you get a little hot sometimes in the summer, but not sweating buckets like you are in Florida. So I really enjoyed that aspect of being back here, just being out and about, looking at the beautiful area here, just there. And so I really appreciate that. It's such a positive, because even though most of our winter is, for me, pretty unwalkable, I know some brave people get out their wellies and, you know, get going with their coats. It's not really my scene, so I tend to not do so much walking in the winter months and tend to hibernate like a little hedgehog, wintered down with my tea, coffee and toast. But anyway, so I just wanted to share with you that positive before I go on to the challenges that I've had. Okay, so first challenge that I wanted to mention was the professional side of things with the workplace. I feel like I'm coming back into entry level. I really do, in many respects. So I'm a teacher, for those of you who are new here on the channel. I'm an experienced teacher, actually. And I've done my ECT stuff. I've done all the initial years, and I must admit it's been quite a challenge coming back here, and A, being treated like an ECT, and B, being paid like one. Almost. Now I am joking a little bit there, because teachers have a main pay scale, and I did receive some of my years, so I have to say that in all fairness. But considering my age and considering my experience, I really should be getting more than what I am. But anyway, that's one challenge. And then the second was basically just having to learn new things. And that is totally another video, teaching in the UK and the differences with USA teaching. So if anyone wants me to do a video about that, I could, but it is a separate issue really. It's just a huge issue. But yeah, I have really found it a challenge with the professional side of things, because I'll give you an example. In school, thank God I did get a really good teaching position, first of all, when I first got back here, like a summer school, teaching foreign students English. That worked out really well, except for them being a bit arrogant, which we won't go into now. But apart from that, it was pretty good. And then, I just jumped ahead of my walk a bit before I continue filming. Don't want to be around too many people, but yeah, it was a really neat job. And then I went to a primary school in my local area and taught there for quite a bit of time. But during that time, it was like an enormous mountain that I had to climb. I mean, I can't tell you, unless you're a teacher, you can equate with this. Most people, they hear about, you know, some of what teachers go through, but I felt like I was a reverse expat, American expat, ECT, early careers teacher, and also just still grieving the loss of my dear husband in America and taking care of my older mum. So I have to say, all of these things are part of my story, and I don't really mention them too much on my channel, but they are definitely part of my life in the last 2 years. So you get the picture a little bit. So all of those things I was dealing with in my midlife. It was hard, it was difficult. Anyway, I'm going to find a spot here by this pond, sit down, talk to you some more. Give me a minute. So yeah, the next thing that comes to my mind, another challenge, was these smaller spaces, particularly in homes. And my house in Florida, we had over 2,000 square feet. We had a dining room, we had a family room, we had a kitchen, of course, you know, 2 bathrooms and so on, closets, walk-in closets. And I have to say, they're more normal over there. If you're fortunate enough to get like a more normal 3-bed, 2-bath. But over here are more normal for most people, if they're fortunate again to be able to even buy a house, which I thank God I was able to, but from what I've heard is extremely difficult now for a lot of people. So that makes me sad right there, of course. But in my house that I managed to buy, of course the price ranges are just so totally different. So what you pay for a square footage over here is just vastly much more than, I don't even know what the figures are there, but suffice it to say, a lot more money. So my house right now is 700 and something square feet. So when I first moved in, I moved in with basically a bunch of suitcases that my son and I had just vigorously packed to the brim with stuff, and I had managed to, sorry about the moving a little bit here, I just want to get it in the right position. So my son had, you know, brought clothing mainly, but some other stuff, but I had tried to pack in books, and my daughter had faithfully kept some stuff for me when I had flown over different times before. So that came in handy. I was managing to get stuff over without having to do an expensive move. That worked out pretty good, but the actual moving in, even with the small amount of stuff I had to realign, I had to adjust my thinking to smaller tables, smaller everything. So what happened was I bought this really lovely rustic table, which I have a picture of, but it was just lovely. I loved it, folks. It was like this bench, a bit like it, you know, but I love that kind of rustic, old, almost country cottage type look. And I got it. I actually, my daughter bought it for me. She found it. And I loved it. But guess what? It was massive. It was Florida size. And my mind was all adjusted to the Florida size and the American sizes. So I tried this way and that way in the living room. It was like a little Rubik's Cube. I had to keep moving stuff around endlessly. And the same thing happened with my sofa that I got. Now, the sofa originally was okay in size, but it was just not very flexible. It was like a 3-seater long thing, you know. And in the end, I could see why a lot of Brits buy these corner sofas. So I ended up getting that, and I got it for a good price on Facebook Marketplace. Shout out to them. Sometimes it really works well on there. Just have to be careful, don't we? But oh, by the way, just talking of being careful, I do try and get a balance when I come out for these country walks. I make sure that there are some people around. There's a man sitting right by this pond with his bike, so I feel pretty safe, you know, because he's sitting there just, you know, doing what he's doing, but, you know, someone else around. But the idea is to not be around too many people, but, you know, 1 or 2 at least. So I feel pretty safe. So back to what I was saying, the sizing, I mean, even in the kitchen, I've actually found it a big challenge to get going with my sourdoughs. For those of you who know me from old or from Florida and other friends here in the UK, you'll know that I love making sourdough, but it's been hard for me to get my head around it in the small space. And I just can't seem to do it. It needs a lot of organisation, the counter space and where I keep stuff, and everything's so, you know, small. So you get my drift. It takes some adapting to. So that's something else that I've noticed a lot more, and I've had to deal with. Got hiccups again. Seems like every time I do a YouTube video, you probably notice, some of you guys, if you follow me, that I have hiccups quite a lot. So that was obviously a challenge, and together with the professional side of it, they're my 2 main challenges that I'm going to mention today anyway. And just to finish off today, another positive, I have some really wonderful special memories of being around with my daughter, just hanging out at her house or going shopping or going on holiday. Actually, we went to Greece recently, which was something I made a small video from our trip there. And it's been wonderful to make some new, fresh memories with my daughter. Remember, I was a long way away from her. But at the time when we were leaving, when I was leaving, she was an adult, a young adult, but she was still an adult. We gave her the choice, of course, didn't want to force her to come to the USA, and she chose to stay. I think by that time, she had her own friends and her own life, and I do understand. Of course, I was heartbroken. That's another story. But it took me a long time to get used to not being near her. My son, he's already in a different country miles away, so he's kind of off on his life doing that. But yeah, it was very much getting accustomed to things with the size. This car, it doesn't really bother me with the car. And you know what, before, when I grew up here, I didn't even notice the smallness of things. Even my nan's house, she had like an older terraced house, and I remember those steep, narrow stairs. Do you remember those? Some of you maybe. Very narrow, but we just got used to it. It's the way it was, you know, we didn't really question it. But having been to the USA, lived in an American house and then came back adjusting, it was much more than I bargained for, actually. And it's not that you don't know these things, it's that you don't anticipate what you're going to go through to adapt. You just don't get it, I don't think. Well, I didn't. Anyway, I tried to anticipate as much as I could moving over here. Anyway, there's a short little glimpse today of my experiences since I've been back in the UK. I'm going to make another one because I'm sure that I have forgotten or not included a lot of the things that have happened to me since I got back to the UK. And anyway, I'm going to take a walk back, do a little filming so you can see the area. So I'll look forward to seeing you in the very next video. Cheerio!